You're listening to an archived Cabral Concept podcast. After listening to this show, check out the most up-to-date podcasts available at stephencabral.com/podcasts or search directly on iTunes. And now, welcome to the Cabral Concept, where board-certified naturopath and integrative health practitioner Dr. Stephen Cabral shares how he was diagnosed at the age of 17 with a life-altering illness and given no hope for recovery. It was only after studying and traveling all over the world did he discover how to combine ancient Ayurvedic healing practices with state-of-the-art naturopathic and functional medicine to fully rebalance the body and re-energize it with life. It's time to discover how to get well, lose weight, and finally feel alive again. And now, here's your host, Dr. Stephen Cabral.
I'm looking forward to getting started with today's Friday review, and that's because we're going to be talking about one of my favorite topics, and that's going over how we can decrease all of our risk factors really for disease, especially for inflammatory-based conditions, as well as increase longevity. So it helps with everything from getting back to a healthy goal weight to decreasing a lot of the dis-ease symptoms in the body, and then living an overall longer, healthier life, and one with a better quality of life, so less brain-based issues. And that's through really balancing our omega-6s to our omega-3s. So I'm going to be going over a very special lab test that anyone in the world can do at any age, and also what are the best omega-3 versus omega-6 foods, and also if you're going to use nutritional supplements, what to watch out for and what to look for to get the most benefit. So let's get right into it. Like, really, what are we talking about when we're talking about omega-3s? Because I'm sure you've heard about them. They're in the news all the time. They're in the media. They're a very controversial topic. I'll talk about why they're so controversial and really what the studies show in general. So we're talking about EPA and DHA. Those are the two main omega-3s. I'll be talking about the rest in just a moment. But EPA stands for eicosapentaenoic acid, and DHA stands for docosahexaenoic acid. So in the future, I'll refer to them as EPA and DHA. But just know those are the two main omega-3s that have the most anti-inflammatory power in them. But there is another one called ALA, alpha-linoleic acid, and that particularly comes from plant-based foods. And although you get great omega-3s from it, you'll get it from algae and you'll get it from chia seeds and flax seeds. It's just the conversion to EPA and DHA isn't as great. It's about 6% to 14%. But you can still get good conversion if you are a vegan and you would like to simply get all of your ALAs from plant-based food rather than a vegetarian-based source such as fish, which we'll talk about. So why don't we get right into that now? So the best sources of EPA and DHA, again, which are the most anti-inflammatory, are from seafood in general. And I'm just going to give you a list right now because, again, I think it's always easier if we just go through what is the most absorbable, what do you get the best benefit from, and that's simply fish or seafood. This is going by you're going to get about 4 grams with this serving size. So it's about a cup to a tablespoon. I'm going to go through it right now. So when we're looking at mackerel, salmon fish oil, cod liver oil, walnuts, chia seeds, herring, salmon, flax seeds, tuna, whitefish, sardines, hemp seeds, anchovies, natto, and egg yolks. So when we look at those, we're looking at a larger percentage of omega-3s in those foods. With really, I'm going to give you the major ones, and those are the mackerel that I spoke about, the salmon, tuna has some good omega-3s, trout has good omega-3s, cod liver, sure, that's not as popular one unless you're doing the oil. Herring has really good omega-3s. Some of my favorites definitely are sardines and anchovies because I get to do a lot of the in-house research, meaning I get to run hundreds of the omega-3 lab tests. And what I've seen is that people who eat sardines or anchovies, a lot of the smaller fish, they're also lower in mercury, which is absolutely fantastic. So good, again, for the brain, good for the nervous system to get in less of those heavy metals. Well, when I've tested people who eat sardines or anchovies or the smaller based fish, salmon as well, so I'm not going to deny that, salmon without a doubt, I see that they have a really good omega-3 profile, which means that their omega-6 to omega-3 ratio is less than a 5-to-1. And I'll be getting to that in just one moment as well. So those are some really strong omega-rich foods. They're really, really fantastic. Again, well, why are they so great? Let's talk about that right now. So when you eat a good amount of omega-3 based foods in your diet, There's really great research to show that it helps lessen your chance of a heart attack or stroke. Part of that is the thinning of the blood, and part of that is the anti-inflammatory power of omega-3 fats in general. It helps to lessen kidney disease. It's good for the brain. They're studying it right now for Alzheimer's and Parkinson's. It's great for rheumatoid arthritis. There's some really good research behind that as an anti-inflammatory. Helps with abnormal heart rhythms. Helps with mood and learning-based disorders. And again, this is all right on the Mayo Clinic website. You're welcome to simply go to the Mayo Clinic and look up omega-3 research, and it will show you that these particular things all have an A rating, meaning like there's good research showing that this helps for all these specific conditions. So again, when I'm giving you this knowledge, when I'm just sharing it with you, what I'm doing is I'm looking at the research from an unbiased perspective. And I've told you in the past that I want to look at the research for myself, I want to look at it for my family, and I want to look at it for everyone that I care for my practice, and of course, share it with you as well, because that's really what it's all about. Is I'll learn the research, I'll get deep into it, I'm going to share it with you, and then hopefully you'll pass it on to others as well. So just a few of the things that they're looking at right now in terms of research, then I'm going to state the studies as well. Anything to stabilize diabetes and blood sugar levels, it's being looked at right now. To lower inflammation in the muscles and joints, a lot of athletes use higher dosages of omega-3s to lower their inflammatory based levels. We know it's good for cholesterol. We know it's good for triglycerides already. Looking at it in terms of boosting immunity, sharpening the mind and concentration. I'm going to talk about that because it's being used a lot for ADD, ADHD, mood-based disorders like depression, anxiety, PTSD, treating gut-based issues to reduce inflammation in the gut, looking at reducing risk for cancer. Again, that's still being studied and researched, and definitely helping out with eye health as well as the overall skin. So believe it or not, it can actually separate out the omega-3. So DHA, docosahexaenoic acid, that's been shown now to be even better for the brain, the eyes, and the nervous system. And that's why it's literally given or is prescribed and recommended to women that are pregnant as well as nursing. And that's to help with the nervous system-based development, the central nervous system and brain development, all the organs of the developing fetus. So that's really, really important, again, because there's good research on that. And then EPA is more anti-inflammatory. So it's the most anti-inflammatory. And it also helps with hormone regulation. So you never take them individually. They're always best taken together. And I'll talk about how to get those in just a moment, but I did name those specific foods. Now, before I move on, I just want to let you know that there's ongoing research, ongoing studies right now for adolescent depression, autism spectrum disorders, brain injuries, complications of HIV, looking at bone loss, looking at depression and postpartum depression, looking at epilepsy treatments, also looking at all autoimmune-based disorders, Alzheimer's, diabetic kidney disease, looking at sudden cardiac death as well. And again, all these are being studied at NIH. So I think that's really important to understand that this isn't just a natural health-based thing, meaning like a naturopathic doctor talking to you about this or a functional medicine doctor. This is really from a conventional medicine perspective as well. They know how well this works. Not only does conventional medicine know that omega-3s work, they actually now sell them as a prescription drug. So that's, I mean, it's not what I'm looking for because they use synthetics, but they know that it works as well. Now, the ALA, so the vegan-based varieties, and again, I just mentioned this earlier, but that would be mainly the chia seed, flaxseed, sea vegetables, as well as I'm getting it from walnuts. Walnuts is a great source of the omega-3s as well. And natto, but I'm not as large a proponent as natto, especially since it's like only 10% of the daily value to get your omega-3s in there. But you can also take a supplement with algae as well, and I'll talk about that in just a moment. Or flaxseed oil, that's okay too. So now, what do we want to stay away from? Why are omega-3s really so beneficial? Well, right now in the standard American diet, and again, this goes for pretty much, I know we have people listening all over the world, is omega-6s are so predominant in vegetable oils. So essentially, if you looked at any baked good really in the world, or looked at fried food, you'd be getting a massive dosage of omega-6s. Well, why does that matter? Well, omega-6s, everything we just talked about in terms of nervous system, in terms of heart disease, depression, inflammation, rheumatoid arthritis, all of these things are exacerbated by high levels of omega-6s because they're inflammatory. So stroke, again, cardiovascular, think of anything that's going to be exacerbated because of the inflammation. Salad dressing, vegetable oils, mayonnaise, grain-fed beefs, meaning like your typical meat that you would get chicken, whatever it might be, beef, all of those are loaded with omega-6s because those animals are fed omega-6 based foods. Cookies, pastries, dairy, and there's a lot of nuts. So again, eggs and nuts also contain omega-6s. Now, we need some omega-6s in our diet. There's arguments between should it be a 2-to-1 ratio of omega-6s to omega-3s? Should it be up to a 3 or 4 or 5-to-1? Well, the most that I've ever seen it is a 5-to-1 omega-6s to omega-3s in our diet. I like it more around a 2 to 3-to-1. From omega-6s to omega-3s. And I know most people say like, oh, well, you're supposed to get more omega-3s than omega-6s, but that's actually not true. A ratio of 2-to-1 suppresses inflammation, and it's been shown that the 2-to-1 also helps with asthma, and it helps with any type of inflammation-based disease. But again, it can go all the way up to 5-to-1 because I have seen research with asthma-based patients, and I believe allergies as well, but I know for sure asthma, of a 5-to-1 ratio still working well, which is why I'm going to get to my last part. When we lab test, and again, this is easily the most underrated lab test in the world. I have really come to believe that. It's called an omega-3 inflammation-based test, and all you do is poke your finger and you fill up 4 little circles on a card with blood drops. Very, very simple to do. We do it in office all the time. Now, again, we send these all over the world too, so it's not like we only can do it in office. Anyone can do it anywhere in the world, right at home. Kids can do it, adults can do it. Same as our food sensitivity test. You just put literally the drops of blood on a card, and it shows you your levels of omega-3s to omega-6, and it's very simple. Like, this is not complicated. They look at the blood and they analyze it to see how many omega-3 fats are in the blood and how many omega-6s are there, and then they'll show you a ratio. It's remarkable because the average, this average American is 18-to-1 or greater omega-6s to omega-3s, and we wonder why there's so much disease, why there's so much poor health. And we wonder why, well, if we take this vitamin, why aren't we getting better results? If we take this, why aren't we getting better results? If we do this, why aren't we getting better results? If we exercise more, why aren't we getting better results? Well, it's because we're still loaded with omega-6 inflammatory acids in our body. So until we can get those fatty acids out, those omega-6s, and replace them with healthier omega-3s, we're always going to be suffering from these inflammation-based issues, which is why you have to start with food first, and as needed, the nutritional supplements. And we'll talk about those in the end in just one moment. So back to the omega-6 to omega-3 test, literally it will show you how you stack up. Where do you stack up? Are you around the Americans? Are you around the French Canadians, then Mediterraneans, or are you more near the island people and people who live on the islands, like, well, anywhere near Japan, places like that? They have far less heart disease. And part of that reason is they're getting sea vegetables and they're getting some omega-3s from seafood and fish. So, you have to keep in mind, like, this has been well documented over hundreds of years, not even just the last couple decades, hundreds of years. And we've studied this. We know. We're just trying to find the right dosage. So really the dosage right now looks about a 2-to-1. So if you can get I like to say for the people that I work with from private practice perspective, if you can get a 3-to-1 or less, you're golden. I mean, really, that's a great place to get to. So now, how much omega-3s do you need? Well, it's really different for each person. And that's why, when they do these studies on omega-3s, they say, oh, it helped this person, didn't help this person. You have to look at the levels of omega-3s in people's blood. You can't just do a study and just give them 1 gram of omega-3s per day. Because what if they were eating 20 grams of omega-6s per day? That 1 gram is not going to do a lot because you have to look at the ratio. That's the important thing. You would have to give that person who's eating, let's just say they have 18 grams, like however you're looking at it in terms of your inflammatory omega-6s, well, you need to give them at least 9 grams. You have to give them at least half that in the omega-3s to really get the clinical benefit. So here's the thing. If you can lab test first. It's called an omega-3 inflammation test. I'm simply going to link it up in today's show notes. You can go to stephencabral.com/podcast or go directly to today's show notes if you'd like by going to stephencabral.com/539. It will have all the research that I just spoke about today. And what I'd like to do is also link up that lab test that you can get. It's very, very inexpensive too for what it does. And then from that lab test, if you're an 18-to-1 or you're a 20-to-1, well, then we'll do more of 3 to 4 grams of omega-3s per day. Usually the dosage is between 2 and 4 grams per day. And then your choice, but you can test then about 10 to 12 weeks later. And if you brought it way down to the 3s, well, then that's great. I then recommend Obviously, doing this through nutrition, through food as well, lowering your omega-6s like the ones I spoke about, upping your omega-3s. If you're vegan, you're going to up your sea vegetables, your algae-based vegetables. You are going to up your flaxseed and chia seeds, and you're just going to lower your omega-6s in general, meaning you're not going to eat as many processed grains with vegetable oil, which is really the worst that you could do. And if you're open to eating some fish, then you're going to eat more of the fish that I spoke about, the sardines, the anchovies, the salmon, the trout, the bright orange ones, the krill. I mean, think about that. Your orange, reddish-based fish are going to be high in omega-3s. That's a big part of it as well. That's not just the astaxanthin, but that's the omega-3s too. Now, fish in general have omega-3s, so you can get a little bit more of that as long as it's lower on the mercury scale. We'll try to link up that card as well. Now, the last part is choosing an omega-3 supplement. So what if you want to just decrease your inflammation, not worry about eating more fish, not worry about eating more sea vegetables, any of these specific things? Well, here's what I want to tell you is that omega-3s, again, between 2 and 4 grams per day. What I look for is this. I look for sustainability. You can't just buy fish oil products that aren't really from a good quality source. The ones that we use are from Alaskan fish. Alaska has the most unpolluted waters. It's also more sustainable. We use the pollock. So the pollock are a more sustainable fish. Right now, it's 100% sustainably sourced and certified. We also look for, this is very, very important as well. We look for a cold extraction method. You do not want to heat up these very sensitive and very unstable omega-3s. So you have to use a cold extraction process, minimally processed. You need to use what's called molecular distillation. So it's very, very pure. No fishy oil taste, nothing like that. And then you want to use a filtration system that removes any types of PCBs or organic pollutants or heavy metals from the environment. Really, really important. So that, because again, if this is going in my body, if it's going in my family's body, if it's going in your body, I want a third-party test, and that's what we do. And the last part, this is what a lot of people miss, but functional medicine gets this right, meaning like you can go with any functional medicine-based brand. That's not Costco. It's not Whole Foods. It's not Target. It's not Walmart. They're not going to have this. They're going to have the cheap form. They're always going to have the cheapest form because their goal is to sell you the cheapest possible products. I mean, that's the thing. You go there to save money. Again, you don't go to a discount store to buy your supplements. That's the worst thing you can do because you don't even want to put them in your body if they're not a healthy form. So the triglyceride form is really, really important because that's how it's naturally occurring in food. That's why this is so important. So you need a fish oil that has the triglyceride-based form, and you want to make sure that it's triglyceride form for a couple other reasons. One of that is that it's 100% more bioavailable. So you don't even need to take as much. Instead of swallowing like 6 fish oil capsules a day, you only need to take 2 if it's in the triglyceride form and you're getting at least 1 gram. So the kind that we have is 1 gram of omega-3s per capsule of EPA and DHA. That's unheard of. And then that's what I looked for. I said, how can we get people to take less capsules but more omega-3s? So just 2 capsules a day is going to get you over 2 grams of your omega-3s. It's going to help to cut down on the free radical damage. You're also going to make sure that when you get the natural form, the triglyceride form, it's not the ethyl ester form, which can break down to an alcohol-based byproduct in your gut. So that's really important as well, because what we're looking to do is make sure we stabilize inflammation, healthy blood sugar levels, all of those things. So really, even if you didn't want to use it in the long term, I highly recommend, even just for a period of about 3 to 4 months, taking an omega-3 fish oil product to lower your inflammatory-based conditions, if you have any of those, to help with weight loss, to help stabilize inflammation, blood sugar, hormones in general. And then if you start to get more fish into your diet, more healthy omega-3s in your diet, you could then start to wean off of the fish oil if you wanted to. Again, my personal recommendation is if you weaned off, then do the omega-3 test as well a couple months later to see if your levels went back up or not. Because again, we want to stabilize those. Last piece of research, I can't not share this with you. They found that those who have 9% saturation in their blood of omega-3s, the fatty acid, they have a 90% risk reduction rate for cardiovascular death. Amazing statistic. So that's why, again, we are seeing great results with it. But again, you have to take a clean kind, you have to take a pure form so that you don't get any of the byproducts. Hopefully that was helpful. I tried to just do one big show on omega-3s today. We've gotten so many questions on it. I believe that if you do the omega-3 test, you'll see your personal score. If you choose not to do that, you just want to take a fish oil, make sure it's from an organic, it's from a wild, sustainable source so that it's good for the environment as well, and that you are taking at least 2 grams per day of EPA and DHA, not just total omega-3s, but EPA and DHA, so that you get all the anti-inflammatory benefits of these good quality omega-3s that we know help to balance healthy levels of inflammation, blood sugar, and help with our nervous system, our brain. Thank you everyone for tuning into another Cabral Concept. Really appreciate each and every one of your listens, and please feel free to share this with anyone you believe it could help. Before you go, I wanted to share a personal story with you. The real reason I began to get well finally is because I figured out what was wrong with me. And that might seem pretty obvious, but I went from doctor to doctor for over 2 years before discovering at-home functional medicine lab testing. These are the labs that enabled me to finally figure out what was wrong with my hormones, blood sugar, electrolytes, and gut health. And once I knew what was wrong, I could then follow a proven plan in order to rebalance my body from the inside out. This is why I believe so strongly in functional medicine lab testing, and why I've made it my mission to share these labs with the world. Now at equa.life, you can order an at-home lab test or lab bundle for you and your family and be able to complete it within the week. Plus, the EquaLife difference is that you're not left to try to read and figure out these labs on your own. We explain what your lab numbers mean, what they mean in the much bigger picture, and then how to go about rebalancing your body in order to heal. To see our full selection of lab tests, or to set up a free lab selection call to find out what labs may be best for you, simply head on over to equa.life/labs. And do remember, we ship these all over the world. To find out more and to set up your free lab selection call, simply head on over to equa.life/labs. That's EQUI.LIFE/labs.